Hi there and welcome back to Dragon Age Origins. I am Byron. Let's talk to Morrigan.
What do you wish of me?
I'd like to ask you something.
If you must.
How did you become a shape changer?
I was not born such. 'Tis a skill of Flemeth's, taught over many years in the wilds. The chastened have tales of we witches, saying that we assume the forms of creatures to watch them from hiding. When a child is alone and separate from his tribe, that is when we strike, dragging the young boy kicking and screaming to our lair to be devoured. A most amusing legend.
But it's just a legend, right?
So I assume. My mother has walked the wilds far longer than I. Who am I to suggest what things she has done and not done in her past? Why do you ask? Is there something specific you wish to know?
Can you change into other human forms as well?
The form of an animal is different from my own. One may study the creature, learn to move as it does, think as it does. In time, this allows one to become as it is. I gain nothing by studying another human. I already am the same as they are. I learn nothing. So the answer is no, my human form is the only one I possess.
Can anyone become a shape changer?
Anyone with sufficient will. But the act of transformation is a magical one. 'Tis a spell and thus requires a mage's talents. Indeed, you could learn the spells required if I cared to teach you.
Do you spend a lot of time as an animal?
There were nights when the wilds called to me, 'tis true. You look upon the world around you and you think you know it well. I have smelled it as a wolf, listened as a cat, prowled shadows that you never dreamed existed. But my life is as a human. I am under no illusions to the contrary.
What do other animals think of you when you're changed?
They do not shy away from me. To their senses, I believe I seem like any other of their species. As to what they think, I truly cannot say. Just as I am still human, no matter my form, they are still animals. Thus they cannot speak, even were I to ask.
I've never heard of magic like that before.
No? 'Tis not unheard of in the remote corners of the world. There are traditions of magic outside of the circle of magi, despite what those mages would have you believe. Some of these traditions are old, indeed, passed down as carefully guarded lore from one generation to the next. The zealots of the Chantry would uproot all such practitioners if they could. But as luck have it, some still exist. My mother is such a one.
That's good. Such traditions need to be preserved.
I'm shocked that you think so, being a mage of the circle as you were. But perhaps you felt a little like a caged bird as well, caught within that dark tower.
Yes, very much so.
I thought so.
That's all I wanted to ask.
Indeed. Have you an opinion on my abilities, then? Am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch?
I think your abilities sound quite useful.
A most practical opinion. Far more so than any man I have spoken to. But enough of such talk. Let us proceed, lest the dust gather on us.
And Morrigan approves. Very nice.
What do you wish of me?
I'd like to ask you something.
If you must.
Can I teach others to become shape changers?
By others, do you mean yourself?
Possibly.
Then I shall teach you what I can whenever we are in camp, provided you have the will to even make the attempt, that is.
And we unlocked the shapeshifter specialization. Not that we're going to use it, but anyway.
What do you wish of me?
I mean, the shapeshifter sounds nice, but since you can't cast spells in animal form, it defies the main purpose of the mage. So, yeah.
If you must.
Did you grow up in the Kokari Wilds?
Why do you ask me such questions? I do not probe you for pointless information, do I?
You could if you wanted to.
Oh, what luck. What is it you asked? If I grew up in the wilds? A curious question. Where else would you picture me? For many years it was simply Flemeth and I. The wilds and its creatures were more real to me than Flemeth's tales of the world of man. In time, I grew curious. I left the wilds to explore what lay beyond, never for long. Brief forays into a civilized wilderness.
You remained unnoticed?
For the most part, Flemeth taught me well. For all that I had been taught, however, the truth of the civilized lands proved to be overwhelming. I was unfamiliar with so much. So confident and bold was I, yet there was much that Flemeth could never have prepared me for.
Very daring. That sounds like you.
Equal parts daring and foolhardy, perhaps. Only once was I accused of being a witch of the wilds, and that by a chastened who happened to be travelling with a merchant caravan. He pointed and gasped and began shouting in his strange language, and most assumed he was casting some curse upon me. I acted the terrified girl, and naturally, he was arrested.
That was quick thinking.
Men are always willing to believe two things about a woman. One, that she is weak, and two, that she finds him attractive. I played the weakling and battered my eyelashes at the captain of the guard. Child's play. The point being that I was able to move through human lands fairly easily. Whatever humans think a witch of the wild looks like, 'tis not I. Not that I did not have trouble. There are things about human society which have always puzzled me, such as the touching. Why all the touching for a simple greeting?
Touching like a handshake?
To begin with, yes. What is the point of touching my hand? I find it an offensive intrusion. There were many nuances that Flemeth could never tell me of. When to look into another's eyes. How to eat at a table. How to bargain without offending. None of these things I knew. I still do not understand it all, truth be told, but then I gave up long ago any hope of doing so. When I returned to the wilds last, I swore to Flemeth that I had no intention of leaving again.
Well, the handshake is quite simple. You offer your open hand to somebody and therefore show that you do not have a weapon in it. So you mean well. You're not going to attack him. Right now, at least. Yet here you are.
Yes, here I am. Well, let's get on with it before the ground opens up and swallows us, yes?
Okay.
What do you wish of me?
I'd like to ask you something.
If you must.
Have you ever been hunted by the Chantry?
My mother has been hunted from time to time, yes, by Templar fools like Alistair, which should tell you how successful they generally were. Flemeth made a bit of a game of it, in fact. The Templars would come again, and she would look at me and smile and say that the fun was to begin once more.
You really had no trouble with them?
I am unsure. I was too young to understand, and perhaps 'twas bravado on Flemeth's part, or perhaps she was merely amused. I will never know. Flemeth would warn them, once. 'Twas a warning they inevitably failed to heed. And then the true game began. Often Flemeth would use me as bait. A little girl to scream and run and lure the Templars deeper into the wilds and to their doom.
Surely more would have followed.
Sometimes. Eventually. Thankfully, the wilds is a vast place. Once they found us, Flemeth would simply move us elsewhere, and we would be lost within the forest once again. I did not understand the danger we faced until I was much older. I had never heard of apostates or maleficarum.
They got what they deserved.
Perhaps they did. Still, I do not begrudge them doing what they believe is necessary. The Chantry sees any mages not leashed to the Circle of Magi as apostates, and apostates could become maleficarum, evil mages that resort to blood magic and become demon-enslaved abominations. It may even be true, still, those of us who prefer freedom see no reason to submit.
Well, that's the thing. I know mages can be dangerous, but before you punish them, you actually have to let them commit a crime. So it is wrong to lock them away just because they might become an abomination. You can only lock them away after they've become one. Well, yes, I agree with that.
An interesting answer for a mage. Enough of this talk. Let us return to the task at hand. What do you wish of me? If you must.
Is Flemeth really what she seems to be?
Well, that depends, does it not? What does she seem to be?
Human?
Oh, she certainly was human. Once. Tell me, how much do you know of the tale? The one that the chastened still tell of my mother, to frighten them into obedience.
I'm more interested in the truth.
I can relay what Flemeth once told me herself, and you can decide whether or not 'tis the truth, if you desire.
That sounds interesting.
As the tale is sung by the bards, there was a time when Flemeth was young and beautiful, a fair lass in a land of barbarian men, the desire of any who saw her.
Not true then?
No, quite true, but this part only. The tales say that Flemeth fell in love with Osen the bard, and fled the castle of her husband, the dread Lord Conobar, and that he swore vengeance for her infidelity. In truth, my mother claims that 'twas Osen who was her husband, and Conobar the jealous lord, who looked on from afar. Lord Conobar approached young Osen, and offered him wealth and power in exchange for his lovely wife, and Osen agreed.
He sold his wife to another man?
The life of a bard is a poor one, and love fades in the wake of hunger. 'Twas Flemeth who suggested the arrangement. All would have been well had Lord Conobar kept his end of the bargain. But he was a foul man who bargained with coin he did not possess. Osen was led off to a field and slain, left for dead. Flemeth spoke to the spirits and learned of the deed, and swore revenge.
So she truly loved Osen then?
That was not the point. Conobar had no honor, so she would not have him. Flemeth begged the spirits to aid her, and 'twas they who slew Conobar. The demon the legend tells of came later. Lord Conobar's allies chased Flemeth, you see, chased her to the wilds, and there she hid. There she found the demon, and he made her strong. The legends all speak of the great hero Cormac, he who defeated Flemeth and her great army when she invaded the lowlands centuries later. All lies.
Which? She never invaded, or he never defeated her?
The truth of the matter is that there was never an invasion. As Flemeth tells it, the Chastened never raised an army under her banner, and she never fought with any warrior named Cormac. Cormac led a brutal civil war against his own people, and later claimed it was to vanquish evil that had taken root amongst the lords. Thus, he was hailed a hero. Flemeth was only attached to the legend much later. Perhaps 'twas due to the great war with the Chastened that eventually came, but Mother claims not to know how it began.
How is it that Flemeth has survived for so long?
The demon within her has transformed her into something else. An abomination, perhaps some would say. I know not. I only know my mother is clever, and she is part of the wilds as it is part of her. But she is no immortal. She bleeds. A blade in her heart would kill her like any other, were it lucky enough to find her.
The legend tells of Flemeth having many daughters?
You ask if I have sisters? I have asked of this myself. The stories tell of many witches of the wilds after all, not just the one. And these tales existed long before I did. Flemeth refuses to speak of other daughters, if they existed. So, should I believe I am her first? I doubt that too.
Why would she refuse to speak of them?
The Chastened tell of a falling out between Flemeth and her daughters. They say that one day she hunted them all through the wilds and ate their hearts. It may be true. I have never seen another witch or heard of one. Perhaps one day Flemeth will eat my heart as well.
Do you believe her version?
I do not believe everything that Flemeth claims. Oft it seems her bitterness has colored her memories. But on the whole, yes, I believe this tale, if not all.
An interesting story, thank you.
Flemeth tells it with far more embellishment than I, but you are welcome. Dare I ask of your own mother? Few are abominations of legend, 'tis true, but I find myself curious nevertheless.
I loved her. What else you want to know?
Nothing. I wish to know nothing more. I find myself a little envious, to tell the truth. But it matters not. Let us move on.
Okay, she approves. I don't really know. Maybe now she's... maybe the approval rate would have been higher if I hadn't told her that I loved my mother. Because apparently she doesn't really love hers. Or maybe she loves her, but she doesn't feel like the love is being returned. So yeah, you're a shape changer. That's not so good. Blood Mage is probably more useful.
What do you wish of me? If you must.
Oh.
By others, do you mean yourself?
Yeah.
Then I shall
We already
teach you
had
what
that. Okay. Okay, you get that every time.
What do you wish of me?
I would like to discuss something personal.
We are in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any.
No. Never mind then.
Ah, it's good to see you, my timely rescuer. Bodon Fennick at your service once again. I saw your camp and remember the kind offer that you made the last time we met. And is there anywhere safer for a poor merchant and his son to sleep? I think not. I'm perfectly willing to offer you a fine discount for the inconvenience of our presence. How does that sound? Good? Yes?
Have you been following us?
Following you? I'm not even certain where you're going, my friend. And quite frankly, it's none of my business. Trust me when I say that my encountering you here was serendipity and nothing more. I travel a lot, so I'm bound to meet everyone on the road eventually. If you prefer, I'll take my boy and be on my way. But regretfully, you're the safest spot on this road, without a doubt.
What are you selling exactly?
Anything, everything, but all of the finest quality. No cheap trinkets here. And my boy Sandal happens to be a bit of a hand with enchantments. Oh, yes. Sadly, it also makes us a target for bandits and the like. If there were spare hands to hire as guards, I would have done so long ago.
Let me see your wares, Bodan.
I'm sure you'll be pleased with the goods my boy and I have collected, and with your discount.
Let's see. We don't need a wooden longsword anymore. All that. I'm not gonna sell the rest right now. What do you have? Woo! This is expensive. Oh, see. I could complete the Blood Dragon set. I already have the armor, apparently. The plate, and I could buy the helmet and the gauntlets and the boots. But Alice still needs more strength to wear that. And what do we have here? Tome of Fizzle to Kill technique. And arcane technique. Ah, it gives us a skill point. Ah, this is expensive as fuck. Gifts? And a backpack for 7 gold? Huh. I can't afford that. Let's check. You have the short bow. You could use a long bow, I guess. That would do more damage. Yes, you could. And you have steel armor. Very good. No belts. You could use a leather helmet. And some leather gloves. You have the long bow. And wait a second.
If there's anything I can do for you, please, please
Hey,
tell
what's
me.
that? So what's your story exactly?
Well, if you're really interested, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to tell you. I am originally from Orzammar, the famed dwarven city that lies beneath the stately Frostback Mountains. I was a merchant there, too. Merchant caste. These things are in the blood, you know. You can't just leave them behind. I ran a fairly successful business. Rare artifacts, you know. Old things, grand things. The nobles loved them. Reminded them of the lost glory days, I suppose.
Why did you leave?
One day, a noble woman came to my store. She looked around for a bit and then started shrieking in dismay. Apparently, she believed that a pair of bracers I had for sale once belonged to her brother. He'd been lost in a cave-in, you see, while on an expedition to clear out the Darkspawn from one of the tunnels running close to the city. They were made specially for him. They're unique, she shrieked. He stole them from my poor brother's corpse. She had me arrested on the spot, of course. Nobles, they're touchy like that.
What happened then?
Well, I didn't steal them. You see, I'd been paying these castless thugs to venture out into the deep roads for me. The lost ties. They're full of things that people left behind. Sometimes you can find a treasure. Something worth a little gold.
Better to do something with them than leave them to rot.
That's exactly how I see it. The noblewoman, she wasn't too happy with the theft of her brother's bracers. I don't know what they planned for me, and I didn't want to find out. Bribed the guard that was watching me and took off for the surface first opportunity I got. Never looked back.
And now here you are.
Yes, here I am. Now, is there anything the boy or I can get you?
But where do these goods come from? Not the deep roads.
Look, we don't rob people, all right? We don't take things from people that need them. The things in the lost ties, what good did they do lying there? I brought them back to Orzammar, where people could look at them and remember. It's not all that different up here. There are places long abandoned by the humans everywhere. Even more now with the Darkspawn coming.
What do you mean?
People flee from the Blight with good reason, but they forget things. Things with value and meaning. They leave them behind because they're frightened and desperate. And sometimes, my boy and I, we find our way to these places before the Horde descends, and we save these things. I take them away so the Darkspawn don't get them. Is that so bad? They destroy everything they touch.
No, I think it's okay. They abandoned ownership, but it's cool. I suppose it's better than having the Darkspawn take it all.
That's what I tell myself, too. Ah, these are dark times indeed. Dark times, my friend.
Have you heard any rumors?
I I heard from some travellers that something bad might have happened in Redcliffe, overrun by Darkspawn, maybe. There's no word from the village at all. A merchant friend of mine said he encountered someone fleeing the place and there was nothing waiting for him there but death. He wisely turned around and came right back. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is.
You didn't mention your son in your tale.
Ah, yes. I'm married to a fine woman back in Denerim, it's true. She'd give me a son if she could, but that's not likely to ever be. Sandal here. I found him in the deep roads years ago. Abandoned, I think, and he was never quite right in the head. I took him in, and I brought him with me when I came here to the surface. He may not be my blood, true, but I think of him as one.
We left Orzammar.
That's right, boy. Maybe one day we'll see it again.
Blood isn't all that important.
That's how I've always felt. As long as he's happy, so am I. It's not as if I don't benefit, mind you. Turns out the boy's a natural working with enchantments. He might have even been lyrium-addled. I never thought of that before, to be honest. Happens sometimes. He can work an enchantment into just about anything, however, given some time. Could probably open his own shop, if he knew how.
Enchantment.
Well, he does seem to enjoy it, at least.
Have you heard any other rumors?
I hear tell they held a funeral in Denerim for King Keelan. The Grand Cleric called for a full day of mourning, and there was a procession a mile long passing by the brazier. It's too bad they don't have a body to properly burn. What happened to him at the hands of those creatures, it's unthinkable. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is.
Okay, let's see your wares.
I'm sure you'll be pleased with the goods my boy and I have collected, and with your discount.
So, what can I didn't I sell you a weapon or something? So, let's check. That's the question though. I mean, we could change that around and use this one here and the enchanted dagger there, but you're going to use that most of the time anyway. And a few gloves for you too. Nothing for the dog. You get to use this one. And you can only have a short bow apparently. And we can give you some armor if you want. No, you can't have that. Some boots. Oh, you had all that, that's cool. Very good. What about you?
Hello.
The boy's a bit simple, but he's rather good with enchantments. One of those tranquil fellas actually called him a... what was it now? A savant. I had no idea such a thing existed.
What enchantments does he do?
He can fold lyrium into almost any weapon or piece of armor, though naturally some of the more extravagant materials will take more lyrium than others. It's a process that some of the master smiths back in Orzammar will perform. But my boy here is just as adept at it. Isn't that right, boy?
Enchantment!
And there you have it.
I want some enchanting done.
Enchantment!
So I can enchant Oathkeeper with Journeyman Lightning Rune. Fine, we do that. While Bodane is as well-stocked merchant, his boy Sandal offers something more valuable: enchantment. You can engrave runes onto your weapons, making them more damaging, imbuing them with elemental powers or other mysterious effects. Very nice. What about you here?
You're a hard woman to find. Where are my manners? The name is Levy Dryden. Did Duncan ever mention me? Levy of the coins? Levy the trader?
You know Duncan?
Oh yes, for years. Considered him a friend, I did. But here I am carrying on while you have a blight to stop. Don't want to waste your time. But you see, Duncan promised that together we'd look into something important for the Wardens. And for me. But poor Duncan's... well, no more. A tragedy it is, at that. But I know he would want his work carried on. His pledge fulfilled.
How did you know Duncan?
It's a bit of a tale, that is. But I'm the one who brought the Grey Wardens back to Ferelden. Well, I was one of the ones. There were a lot of us. Maker's breath, I'm a bit nervous. Honoured to be here, really.
Go ahead and tell your tale.
After King Marek freed us from the Orlesians, the Grey Wardens begged the King's permission to come into Ferelden, some sort of internal business. Me and a mess of other Warden sympathisers spoke on behalf of your order. Tan Loghain was very much against letting Orlesian Wardens in the kingdom. But Marek, Andraste, bless him, was a fair-minded monarch, and he let them in.
Go on, I'm listening.
So that's why I was there when the Wardens and their leader, Genevieve, presented herself to the King. The first Wardens in Ferelden in over a century. Proudest day of my life, that was. Duncan was a bit of a scamp back then. We were of an age, and struck up a friendship. The King himself went with the Wardens on their mysterious business. When he returned, he rescinded King Ardland's decree, and the Wardens came back to Ferelden for good.
Duncan was an easy man to like.
That he was.
Thank you for bringing back the Wardens in here.
Oh, his stomach's all aflutter. You're welcome.
What promise did Duncan make to you?
My family, well, past a bit checkered to see. Nobles look at us with disdain. My great-great-grandmother, Sophia Dryden, was the last Warden Commander of Ferelden back when the Wardens were known as freeloaders. So King Arland banished the Wardens, and he took House Dryden's land and titles.
What happened next? No, wait, that's a bit drastic, isn't it?
And then some. Not much is known about that time. After King Arland died, there was a civil war, loads worse than this one. And our family was on the run, hunted by enemies, with nary a friend in the world. But Drydens are tough. We rebuilt, became merchants, and we never lost our pride.
I'm surprised you kept your name.
Our family's only crime was guarding the kingdom against the Blight. We're not ashamed of that.
So what favour did you ask of Duncan?
I asked for the truth. My family reveres Sophia Dryden. We know she died at the old Grey Warden base, Soldier's Peak. We want evidence to clear her name. It won't restore our land or our titles, but it'll restore our honour.
I've never heard of Soldier's Peak.
Well, no one's been to Soldier's Peak since Ireland's days. At least none that's come back. I spent years mapping the maze of tunnels to the peak, and I found the way a few years back. So I went to Duncan, I did, and I said that he could reclaim the old base and my family could have its honour.
Why didn't Duncan help you?
darkspawns surfaced in southern Ferelden, and Duncan got plenty busy recruiting new wardens and meeting with good King Cailan. Duncan said he would help after the Battle of Ostagar. Said there might be useful things at the peak, but he never had the chance.
How will reclaiming the peak help the Wardens?
Soldier's Peak is strategic and symbolic importance. Duncan said that it would be worth it right there. He also hoped to recover lost Warden history and perhaps a few old relics. No one knows what's up there now.
What do you need from me?
I can pick my way through the tunnels at the base of Soldier's Peak, but the place, well, they say it's haunted, and it'll be dangerous for certain. Will you think on it at least?
Your family's faith will be rewarded. I will help you.
1,000 blessings upon you, Warden. I'll mark down the location on your map. When you arrive, we'll pick our way through the tunnels together.
Okay. So, I don't know. Do I need a special level to be able to do that? Sophia Dryden. Sophia Dryden is Ferelden's light and her most brilliant jewel. Nothing on this earth can ever quench her fire. Our lesser Sophia Dryden was the young Arlen's rival for the throne of Ferelden. Dryden was a strong and charismatic leader with much support from the Banon. When Arlen finally won the crown, Dryden refused to relent. She pushed her claim, was caught and accused of treason. Her sympathizers continued to support her, however. In order to appease them, Dryden was spared execution and forced to join the Grey Wardens instead. Dryden survived the joining and dazzled the Grey Wardens at Soldier's Peak with her leadership skills and charm. She eventually rose through the ranks to become the Warden Commander of Ferelden. Before Commander Dryden, the Grey Wardens were seen as a relic of an older time and an unnecessary drain on the nobles' coffers. Dryden, though, with her political connections, reinvigorated the Wardens and rapidly increased their numbers. In the meantime, King Arlen proved himself a devious king willing to go to brutal lengths to silence his opponents. Arlen's reign of terror grew worse with each passing year, and some of the bands approached Commander Dryden in desperation, begging her to intercede. She agreed, and thus was the rebellion against King Arlen born. Arlen learned of the rebellion and took steps to end it. He publicly suspended all tithing to the Grey Wardens and declared that they were no longer welcome in Ferelden. Some of the Wardens, mindful that they were supposed to remain politically neutral, felt disgraced by Dryden's involvement in Ferelden politics and left her side even as the King's forces lay siege to the Soldier's Peak. The siege took months and ended with the death of Sophia Dryden. The history of the Drydens. In the years following the siege of Soldier's Peak, all those who carried the Dryden name were hunted by King Arlen's forces. Our noble Dryden name was smeared on all lands and holdings belonging to the Drydens were seized by the crown. The king feared that the rebellion started by Sophia would be kept alive by her loyal friends and family, and anyone with connection to the Drydens suffered greatly. It is little wonder then that the few remaining Drydens found themselves with no allies and nowhere to turn. Tobin Dryden, Sophia's brother and guardian of her young son, had no choice but to flee Ferelden. Tobin bought passage to Antiva on a merchant vessel and travelled under the name De Roca. Once in Antiva, Tobin set about building a quiet new life for himself and his nephew. He started a small business and eventually made a name for himself as a trader. The De Roca merchant family prospered and the name Dryden was almost forgotten. However, in 815 blessed, Sylvie De Roca uncovered all documents belonging to Tobin and pieced together the family's history. In her pride and perhaps in her naivete, Sylvie claimed the name Dryden and returned to Ferelden. King Arlen lies dead and the Dryden name lives on. Our family has survived, even thrived since the death of Sophia Dryden. The nobles of Ferelden may still spit on the Dryden name, but we Drydens know that Sophia Dryden was greater than them, almost a queen and a hero to the people of Ferelden. Okay, so it looks like we have a new quest. Levi offered to take you through the maze of tunnels that lead to the old Grey Warden base at Soldier's Peak. He wished to uncover proof that his His ancestors feared Raiden was a hero his family always thought she was. So the thing is, I will have to look what kind of level I should be when I take on that premium premium content, those quests, those bonus quests, I guess. But anyhow, oh, he's gone now. This has been quite a long video, so we will end it here and we will continue on the next one. So thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye.